Welcome back, everyone, to the Siro Sales Academy powered by Grosso University. I'm Dominic Caminata. Again, I'm joined in the studio with Joe Jordan and Dan Coomes-Barry. As many sales coaches have experienced, it's absolutely impossible to have the visibility necessary to command your team because you simply cannot ride with every salesperson simultaneously. This is like practicing with your team, helping them train, get in shape, however, never actually having the ability to watch them play a live game. With the power of Siro, sales coaches can now defy physics and literally ride along with every single person on every lead every single day. In this course, we're going to demonstrate exactly how to conduct a virtual ride-along, literally giving you the priceless ability to 10x your efficiency and proficiency as a sales coach. Leave it to you there, Joe, and give us a sneak peek of Siro, the actual dashboard, and show us how efficient a virtual ride-along can be.
Absolutely. So we're going to start with a virtual ride-along here, since regular ride-alongs are what everyone's familiar with. We have this recording here pulled up from a rep. There's a lot going on here, so I'll walk through it. So first we can see conversation wasn't closed. They were in the home for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. Got the recording, the transcript here. Where I recommend people start is right here with the summary. So we can go through it together and we can figure out where to start. So the summary is going to give us an overview. It's fully customizable of what you want it to tell you. In this case, we're looking at what was offered, what was the customer concerned about, and what did they agree to at the end of the day. So I like to jump right to this customer concerns section to identify where to jump in. And here, it says the customer had concerns about their budget, project timeline, potential obstacles with existing wires from previous installations, and the quality and durability of the offered products. So typically, right from here, you can get a general sense of where to focus in. What does that summary tell you guys?
So go ahead, Dan. How do we unpack that? The quality and durability of the products that are being sold.
So I always, start where you start, which is the discovery, the survey. That's where I want to dive in and see where did this information, when was it disclosed to the sales rep? Because if you figure this out early on in the appointment, I know exactly how I'm tackling this. This is going to be a long-term permanent solution. We're talking about an ROI for these people. I'm assuming if they're taking on a project that costs a substantial amount of money, they never want to do it again. And we know the only way to have a permanent, or the only way to get a true ROI, rather, is to have a solution that's permanent and maintenance-free. So if I know that that is their concern up front, I want to see how the sales rep extracted that information and then how they targeted them to really make sure that was a point of emphasis during their product presentation, right? If at the end of this conversation, we get something like a shop around objection, it's going to be a clear indicator that that was not fulfilled by the sales rep during the sales portion of this consultation. Hey closers, it's Dan Coomes-Barry from Grosso University. I'm the sales trainer who runs our monthly Sales Academy Masterclass, where we walk you through our 11-step process for in-home sales in the home improvement industry. This process is perfect for salespeople of any level of experience, whether you're green coming right into the field or you've been doing this for 30 years. We promise you that you're going to learn something that you can take out that day and help you close business. From my personal experience, I know that many homeowners that you talk to are looking to work with a credible expert who is knowledgeable, but they don't like being sold. The beautiful part about this process is it can be tailored for any personality type, any problem you may run into, and we're going to go through this in such a detail-oriented manner that you'll be prepared for any situation. From walking up and knocking on the door all the way through buttoning up the deal, we will teach you the nuanced art form that is one call closing. This is a skill set that helped me make multiple six-figure income for years and years, and now, because I get to sit on this side of the camera, I get to pass that skill set along to you. I hope you're up to the task, because I'll tell you, this is a 145-page book that we train over a 2-week span. It is coupled with our 11-part video series that's broken down so it's easy to digest. No matter what type of learner you are, we accommodate you. Now, at the end of our 2-week training process, you will have to pass a final exam, and it's not easy. You'll have to score at least an 85% on this final exam in order to become a certified sales warrior through the Grosso University program. And that's where the hard work begins. But if you're up to the task and you want to make life-changing money and cultivate a skill set that will permeate into all areas of your life, I invite you to join me in the Sales Academy Masterclass. We have classes that start on the second Monday of every month, and I look forward to seeing you in class. And as always here at Grosso University, yes, you are a closer.
So bottom line is the homeowner should never have an objection basically pertaining to the quality and durability of your product. That's just a complete malfunction of the masterful presentation right there. So the best closing rule is a masterful presentation. Of course, when you deliver that presentation properly, the homeowner should be saying 3 things at the end of the sales encounter. What are those 3 things?
I want it, I need it, I must have it.
They shouldn't be saying, oh, your product looks like it's a piece of crap and it looks like it's going to fall apart. If the homeowner is going to feel that, nobody wants to try to strong arm a homeowner into buying something they don't want or desire. Because a homeowner, if they want to buy from you, they have to have need. They have to have some sort of urgency or hurry, want or desire for your product and service. Of course, they have to have trust and it has to be affordable. Those are the 5 things. So it's telling me right there, the fact that there's zero desire and the homeowner is not convinced that this is a quality, durable solution to their problems, that right there is an area I would start diving in with the sales rep immediately. Let's figure out how to fine tune your masterful presentation to make your product more desirable. But the thing that's amazing about this is without having to sit with a salesperson in the house for 3 hours or 2 hours and 19 minutes, right away I have a pretty good indication that this salesperson needs a lot of help in the masterful presentation. And part of the reason, as Dan mentioned, that presentation's not hitting the mark is because that discovery, I'm guessing, was also lacking. You could be the best sharpshooter in the world, but if you're blindfolded and shooting in the dark, you're never going to hit your target. So let's first pay about that roadmap to the sale. Let's figure out how this person wants to be sold. Again, let them pave out the roadmap for you. And then when you're doing your masterful presentation, it's going to resonate and speak to what's important to them.
We've gone in, we've read the summary, we now have an idea of where to start. It sounds like probably we want to dig into discovery, into the survey here to find out where this came up. So now I'm going to be able to go over to AskZero. You can ask it any sort of question. So we've already asked it a couple of questions here, like what they could have done to close the sale. You can always jump in here if something doesn't jump out to you from the summary. But here we can ask it, if we wanted to focus on discovery, what would you want to know about discovery specifically?
If it shows us the timestamp when the customer disclosed their concerns or their desires for doing the project.
It's going to take about a minute because it's got to read this whole 2.5 hour conversation to get the answer. But in the meantime, we can check out some of the other things that Siro has on here. Actually, I'll spit it out real quick. So customer did not clearly state why they wanted to do the sunroom project or what specific problem they were trying to solve with it. Conversation focused more on the details and pricing of the sunroom itself rather than the customer's underlying motivations. And
why do you think they didn't explain why they want to do this? Because the salesperson failed to do what?
Proper discovery. Selling is not telling, right? So if you ask the right questions, every single person I've ever sold anything to told me how to do it. We knew where the deficiency was going to be, and Siro just pointed it out in 10 seconds.
Perfect. We can ask one more question. Why don't we find out what the hell they actually did ask?
Right.
When it finds out these questions, it's actually going to link us to the specific moments so that we can jump to that and see what actually went down. I'll just show some of the other things and point them out here. It's also going to bookmark all the key moments of your guys' conversations. This particular company, we have 28 bookmarks configured where it's bookmarking those specific things from the company story to labeling phrases, discussing the warranty, all the way down to where they're starting to get objections like, hey, I need to get other quotes, and pitching some of other like products like destination motivation to try and get a deal done, things like that, financing. But let's see what AskZero came up with. So the rep asked several good discovery questions to learn more about the customer's needs. They asked how the customer found out about the company. They also probed about any potential timing conflicts and asked if the customer had done any prior research on the sunrooms and their level of knowledge around financial expectations. So we can jump to, for example, where they asked about the goals.
I do want to mention that when I'm looking at the transcript here, every time the sales rep asks a question, I see a paragraph, and every time the customer answers, I see a sentence max, sometimes 2-3 words. So this is indicative of not going through and having a conversation. It's more of an interrogation, which is something we train heavily on. We want to avoid this sort of interaction. It comes across as one-dimensional and salesy.
Yeah, for one reason or the other, you can tell the customer's guard is up. How that salesperson entered the home, how they began the conversation, or maybe that prospect had a bad experience with the sales rep right before then, a bad sales encounter. And if a sales rep just blows through that and doesn't get the homeowner open up about that so we can get past it, that's going to be a hidden objection the whole time. The prospects are going to be fighting him tooth and nail throughout the entire sales encounter. This is why the sales rep seems to be getting nowhere, and essentially they're talking themselves out of the home one sentence at a time here.
They're not asking the right questions, and when they are asking questions, they're not getting good answers because they haven't gotten the customer to open up. And so now we can basically start coaching. We can leave a comment and point out the problem. What I like to do is actually go find an example from a top rep who does this really well. You just go over to recordings. You can pick a top rep on the team. And once you filter down to that rep, just click into where they're doing discovery. For this company, the discovery bookmark is called qualification. That's just what they call it. When you open up a recording, it's actually going to take you right to where that qualification happened. You can see they're starting here with how long have you lived here. I can leave a comment and actually tag that other rep in this and say, hey, this is what it sounds like when you get a customer to open up. Remember on that previous recording, we were getting one-line answers. We actually didn't get them to uncover the project need. Here's a really great example of how to do this well.
Yeah, think of how powerful that is, not only in like sales meetings, but also in the initial onboarding and training for salespeople. As I'm training them on our step selling sales process, we're going through introduction, survey, discovery, measure, and inspection. We could literally have a whole library of these recordings of these key moments from top performers that they could actually listen to while they're training. So it really helps them put the puzzle piece together and visualize the whole sales encounter from start to finish.
8 minutes and 34 seconds in, including all of our discussion. And that recording was about 2 hours long. If you imagine that you were doing a real ride along, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back, now you're 3 hours in the whole, we just did that 20 times faster.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have real feedback you can give people where they're not guarded because the data's in front of them. So you can be like, look, we're working on this together. We all have blind spots. This is yours. Here's what we're going to focus on right now. For the next week, we're just going to be role playing how to do a survey in the house. And you will see when these people start to fix their blind spots, all of a sudden, lo and behold, they start selling. Then they feel better because they're making some money. You feel better, you sell better. It's just a positive feedback loop. So it's coaching with no speculation. It's here's what's happening, here's what we need to fix. We fix it, you sell.
We took this recording, 2-hour-long conversation. We went into the summary, diagnosed a potential problem, used AskZero to tune in to some of the specific moments where they were struggling. Could have also used some of the bookmarks to jump in there, but wanted to show off AskZero. Found the problem, found a top rep example, all in about 9 minutes, to show them how to get the customer to open up so they can address the problems better. The dashboard, if we go to Insights, you're going to have all sorts of data that you can dig in on objections, on coverage, what steps of the process are people actually hitting, compare different reps, look across the team. You have some usage stats so you can make sure people are actually using the tool, how to talk, so you can see things like your talking speed, your speaker ratio, which I bet if we check on that rep from before, probably wouldn't be too hot. So,
well, and isn't that about average in the industry where reps are monologuing like 80% of the time?
It's unfortunate. Yeah. We know the top reps, they're talking 60% of the time or less. Yeah. You got to have it be back and forth. So I love that you guys break that down. That's usable data. A lot of this, there's so much information and the analytics can be overwhelming. But if you're talking too much or you're talking too fast, it's easy to correct that.
Let's take a look at just objections, for example. Right now, what we're looking at is across all the conversations, which objections are coming up the most. And number one is too expensive or out of my price range. Number two is I need to get other quotes. And so what I like to do is actually filter down to just the conversations that we didn't close so we can see which ones are actually stopping us from winning the most. And it's very similar. Too expensive and I need to get other quotes are coming up a lot. And they only moved a tiny percentage. We're not winning against these objections very often. In fact, if we look at closed conversations where we overcame these objections, looks like we're actually overcoming too expensive about 14%, and 14% of our closed won conversations need to get other quotes in about 7%. So too expensive is like far and away the number one thing to coach on. When it's time for the team meeting, what I like to do is just screenshot something like this and throw it in the team meeting deck. So it's like, here's the data. Guys, this is what we're struggling with the most. We can go over and look by rep, who's actually overcoming this. And so we have Tom and the Midwest are sort of handling this the best. And so what we can do is actually just jump right into recordings, filter down to Tom and that objection.
Yeah, and all those things you were bringing up earlier, like talk speed and, the ratio of the conversation, all those things are going to matter as I'm talking to my entire team. If we want to emulate what the top performers are doing, all those little things make all the difference. when you compile, okay, what is the big thing that separates a top performing rep from an average rep? Well, they're asking more questions, they're listening more, their talk speed is at XYZ words per minute. They actually get more patient when price is on the table. They actually take the time to have a conversation instead of just doing a 1 to 2 hour lecture and boring the customer to tears. Literally talking themselves out of the home.
And right here, within 3 seconds, example from Tom, who's generally very good at this, in a conversation that he closed where he overcame too expensive. And I won't play the customer's voice here. You can hear them saying, we wouldn't do that. That is way too much money. But I'm just saying that's why I don't understand what all the malarkey is about monthly payments. And so we can hear how Tom goes on to handle this. You could play this in your team meeting, recognize Tom for doing a great job, which is going to start reinforcing the idea here, right, that Siro is for us to share best practices and highlights. It's not actually to micromanage or punish you for mistakes.
That right there is powerful, right? Because how many reps would get that same response or reaction from the homeowner and then just pack it up and leave?
Or just discount.
Yeah, exactly.
Drop the pants.
So having this recording and having this intel as to how that salesperson still was able to persist, still go for the no, still continue to close and walk out with a successful outcome, that's really, really exciting. If I was a salesperson, I'd be dying to hear how that happened.
Well, this is
taking notes.
This is textbook. If you see what he's about to do, immediately leverages social proof, fluff these people on being an intelligent, savvy consumer, and then pivots to financial terms, which is what we train nonstop. When you get a price objection, pivot to affordability, teaches them how to leverage their own finances to make money. I mean, this is textbook.
Yeah.
So what's in it for them? It's financial flexibility, and you're making money while you're enjoying the products. We'll already have this thing done. You can be living with it. You haven't paid a dime out of pocket. In fact, you're making money on your liquid assets while you're doing it.
Yeah, plus we as a remodeler have to put our money where our mouth is and make sure it's installed to your satisfaction and exceed your expectations, because if you don't sign that completion form that you're 100% thrilled with everything we do, we can't even fund the job, which means unless you're completely thrilled to death, we don't make any money. And companies aren't willing to do that because literally we're the ones taking all the risk. But that way you're insured, your end result and your satisfaction is exactly what's delivered.
It's a comfort close, financial comfort close.
Yep. That's really where this stuff comes in, right? What we did is we went to insights, we identified an objection we're struggling with. We scrolled down and it just told us who the best rep was at it. We filtered down to that rep, conversations where they closed the deal, that objection, and it took us to a moment where he's crushing it. And you can do that with all the insights here. Coverage. If you notice, there's a step in the process that your team is skipping. Like, looks like here we're not actually doing the company story very often, right? And so we can go in, who is a top rep doing the company story all the time, play it in the team meeting. If we're in how to talk and you notice that people are not asking enough questions, I'll just go in and show you all the metrics that we have, because there's quite a lot here. Average number of customer questions, customer speaking time, the number of exchanges between you and the customer, how interactive you are, your longest monologue, your control over the conversation, filler words, your speaker ratio, how fast you're talking. All this we can sort of see where is the team struggling, scroll down to the rep who's the best at it, and just filter down one of their recordings, and you've got a really great section in your team meeting that's pinpointed against what's actually the problem in the field. One of the things I want to call out is when people see this, they mostly get excited about the analytics. And certainly the analytics are exciting. They help you really dial in where you want to focus. If you break down what it actually takes to change behavior, what it actually takes to coach someone, it's find problem and then fix problem. And the analytics are really only going to help you find the problem. When you go to fix the problem, that's where the examples from that recordings tab make all the difference. Because sometimes as leaders, we tell someone to do something and they straight up don't believe us that that's the right way to do it. If you threw all the analytics out and you just said, hey, I generally know my reps are pretty bad at XYZ, you're probably right on 2 or 3 of those things. And just getting the examples to share in the team meeting with the recording search is massive. What I want to emphasize is if you only take one thing away from this, it's that the number one thing that you can use from Siro to completely change your sales performance is the examples from the top people on your team. They inspire your people, they build instant trust, and if they don't believe you, they will believe the person in the trenches with them who's crushing them on the leaderboards day in and day out.
This is why I preach this now that we have this at Grosso University. We can literally know more about the sales teams that we train through our sales academy virtually than any sales leader can physically being there in person, because you're documenting and measuring information and data that's absolutely impossible for any human being to do. So again, it's almost like cheating in my opinion. It's like you're literally hacking physics and you're able to put yourself inside every home. And there could be stuff you're seeing individually that you're not putting the puzzle together holistically with your whole team, right? And this really maps it out so you can clearly see the areas of focus, especially when you're searching for those objections, right?
And one of the things you'll find, with that AskZero feature, one of the first questions that's recommended there is, what could the rep have done better? And one of the most common things it highlights is that the customer is unpleasantly surprised when they hear the total price at the end. And as soon as you hear that, you know there's some price conditioning and trust building that needs to be done. What you generally find is the stats are pretty much the same across the conversation. It's very rare that someone is interactive in one place and not interactive somewhere else, because at the end of the day, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so those stats at a conversation level do give you a pretty good idea.
So what Dan was talking about earlier, which we see all the time, I saw this in my over 10 years of riding along with the reps, is during the initial discovery when the sales rep is deliberately trying to gather information, because that's the step they're on, right? I'm trying to gather information. They do an okay job of asking questions, getting the homeowner to talk. But then as soon as their sales hat goes on and they get their company story out, they're going through a presentation, now the questions stop and the telling begins. Now they just start talking at them for like the next hour and a half. This is where a lot of times I'd see questions like prorate, like once the company story started, it's like it dropped off a cliff. And now you can see the homeowner rolling their eyes in the back of their head. They're looking at their watch. They're like, oh, when's this guy going to be done? And then you start getting objections like, can we get to the chase here? So they're not asking any questions. So that's what we commonly see in sales encounters. And this is why we want to go through every step of the sale, whether it be a company story, evolution, product presentation, and as a mastermind group, go through each slide of whatever you have, your PowerPoint, your Engage presentation, your keynote presentation, and have your sales reps work together to come up with as many open-ended and closed-ended questions and stories and analogies they can in each slide to keep the homeowner talking. So anything else that sales coaches should be aware of when they're navigating the vital data on the Siro dashboard?
I think those are the key things that managers, sales coaches should be aware of. There is some extra stuff, though, that you should be aware of for how your sales reps will use something like this.
Yeah.
They're not going to be the ones who are combing through the analytics usually, although they can. They're not going to be the ones, queuing up all these playlists to listen to bad examples like you are. They want to hear what the best people are doing, and they want to share their wins with the team. Yeah. And so the biggest difference with Siro compared to any other technology in the space is the posted section. So the posted section is where people can post moments from their top conversations that they're really proud of and compete to create training content for everyone else. And so when you go to the posted section, there's a leaderboard of who has the hottest trending clips, what those hottest trending clips are, and you can filter down by the specific sections. So if I am struggling with asking open-ended questions, I can jump into a specific point like the company story and see what other questions people are asking. This was actually my biggest thing. The reason I was number 2 and not number 1 my first summer at Cutco was because I wasn't asking enough open-ended questions in my conversations. And I actually sold a lot more once I went and listened to the top rep, Amy, who was asking way more questions and cutting up fruit with the homeowners while they were there. But the really cool thing about this is what makes your reps addicted to using something like Siro. We had a company who was on another tool that switched over to Siro, and one of the reps on their team, her husband actually was like, get off that app. You're always on that app, because when they're watching the game or whatever it is, she's on Siro, listening to recordings from the top people. And instead of relying on you to get all the coaching and you're the bottleneck, they would start learning from each other. And some of the most exciting comments that we see is when a rep is commenting on another rep's recording. This is a fire line. I'm going to use that.
Stole it.
Or I love the way that you, exactly, I love the way that you did X, Y, Z.
Well, again, this is a topic we could certainly talk for hours about, but I think we were able to give a really good presentation as to how to conduct a virtual ride-along. And of course, if anyone wants a deeper dive into the various types of data and analytics and how this can be personalized just for your organization, of course, schedule a call with Siro and their team. They'd be more than happy to take you through step-by-step how Siro works, how to access this critical information, and 20x your efficiency as a sales coach. So another very educational course here at the Siro Sales Academy. Hope you're taking a lot of notes. I just want to say on behalf of Grosso University and everyone at Siro, yes, you are a closer.